So, students, we will be meeting in today's class to discuss what is known as the rigid body kinetics, and we will start with our discussion of kinetics. As you know that the without the knowledge of corresponding kinematics, the kinetics part is of course not complete. And if you recall, our rigid body kinetics is divided into three categories depending upon the kinematics of the body on the of the rigid one. So the motion or the kinematics of a rigid body can be of three types. First is called translational motion or translational kinematics. Second, we had what is termed as the rotational motion about a fixed point and about a fixed axis, that is known as the rotational kinematics. And the third one is called the plane motion or general plane motion, GPM kinematics of the rigid body. So parallel to these three types of motion, we have the corresponding kinetics. So we begin with the translational kinetics and we consider the translational motion of a rigid body. And we know, so far as the translational motion of a rigid body is concerned, that this translational motion can be of two types. One is called the rectilinear translational motion, in which the entire rigid body is observed to move along a straight line with velocity uniform or non-uniform. That is called the translational motion of the rigid body. Similarly, and we know that all the points of the body will follow the parallel and congruent path for translational motion. That means each and every constituent particle of the body will move in parallel path and their displacement over a specified time interval should be equal. That is what is termed as the rectilinear translational motion of a rigid body, which is the simplest type of motion. Exactly in the same manner, we can have what is known as the curvilinear translational motion of a rigid body, in which all the constituent particles will move in congruent curved path. Right, means we have the different particles. They will be moving along a curved line. It may be, say, some concentric circles in which they can move. So we have all the paths will be basically parallel and will be congruent to each other, and that we will call as to be the curvilinear motion, curvilinear translational motion of a rigid body. And we know that for such type of translational motion, since all particles, constituent particles of the body, they undergo equal amount of displacement over an interval of time, delta t. Therefore, it is actually sufficient to just track any single particle belonging to the body under motion. Now, mostly in most of the cases, that single particle can be the center of mass of the rigid body, or it can be any other point on the body for which we know the history of the motion. And to see that, since ultimately we will be following a particle, so ultimately our objective will be to consider a particle kinematics. And since we are having this particle kinematics, curvilinear kinematics, we can use or we can employ the xy coordinate system, else we can employ the normal tangent coordinate system, else we can employ the r theta coordinate system, depending upon as per our convenience. So in this case of the kinetics, we know that our basic governing equations will be applied, and the principle of kinetics is based on the fundamental concept of free body diagram of the system under consideration. Here our system can be a single rigid body, or it can be a combination or collection or a group of rigid bodies. For example, in this case, we have considered a single rigid body, and we isolate this body from its surroundings and show the effect of the external surrounding onto this system in the form of external forces and moments as disclosed in the free body diagram. And here we must be careful to actually the expose or to show all the necessary external effects which are acting on this body. So it should take care of all external forces as disclosed in the free body diagram. And so far as the translational motion is concerned, as you see, the center of mass of this body can either follow a straight line path if the consequent motion of this rigid body is rectilinear in nature, or it can follow a curved path if the body is undergoing a curvilinear translational motion. So here our basic focus will be onto this particle, which is known as the center of mass of this entire body. So I equate this whole thing is basically the free body diagram. The whole thing is basically equal to the accelerations of the center of mass. That means we have, suppose with respect to this xy coordinate system, we have these accelerations of the center of mass along the x direction, we call it as a bar x, and along the y direction we call it as a bar y. So the corresponding forces will be m times a bar x and m times a bar y. We must understand that this a bar x and a bar y basically represent the x and y components of the acceleration of the center of mass. This can refer to the accelerations as studied for rectilinear translational rectilinear translational kinematics, or it can be obtained for analyzing the curvilinear kinematics, translational kinematics of this center of mass. So these are therefore the entire system of these external forces and moments must be equivalent to these two forces. That means this is what is called as the resultant force diagram, or sometimes known as the equivalent kinetic diagram. About this already we know in our study of particle kinetics, which we have done much earlier. So we will follow basically the same principles. Here it may be the requirement that we may require the help of some external point A. That point may be external to this body, or it may be an internal to the body also. So this point A can be an external point, or it can be an internal point on the rigid body. So we require this help. So we take this point A, and of course in the equivalent kinetic diagram also we note this point A, and we know that with respect to this point A, the center of mass of the body, say, is located at a distance of x bar and y bar. That means the distance of the center of mass from this point A can be this two, that is x bar and it is y bar. So under this consideration, let us see how we can apply our basic principle. Actually, the basic guideline will come from the generalized Newton's second law of motion, about which we have already studied during the course of our system of mass particles. Now, in this case, we determine the acceleration components of the center of mass of the body. In fact, if we know these components for any one point on the rigid body, our job is done, because it is the translational motion. So every particle will basically follow the same path. So as a result, the if we actually can find out these acceleration components, I mean to say the a bar x and a bar y, for not just for center of mass, if we can find it for any other point belonging to this rigid body, we know that these accelerations will be also the accelerations of the center of mass, because it is actually following the translational motion. Therefore, we here apply our Newton's generalized second law of motion and can say that summation Fx. What does this summation Fx represent? Now, it represents the sum of all the external forces acting on the body as shown in the free body diagram. So again, we must take a very extra care or extra caution to draw this free body diagram correctly and show all the possible effects of the interactions between this external surrounding and the system in the form of these forces. Some of the forces may be the forces which are acting because of the physical nature of the body. Say for example, the weight will be like that, and which will of course pass through the center of mass. If it is in the vertical plane, then the self weight of this entire body will pass through the center of mass. Or it can be the several the reaction forces which are generated because of the fixation of this rigid body with the surrounding system. So therefore, we take care of all these forces and draw them in the free body diagram, and after locating all these forces, we take their corresponding x components and sum them up to write our equation that sigma fx will be equal to m times a bar x, where m is the mass of this rigid body. Exactly in a similar manner, we can sum all these forces along the y direction and can write that this will be summation fy, which will be the sum of all y component of all the external forces as disclosed in the free body diagram of the system. This must be equal to the mass of the entire body times the corresponding acceleration, y component of acceleration of the center of mass, or y component of acceleration of any constituent mass particle belonging to the domain of this rigid body. So these are our primary equations. Now, as I have told, that there may be requirement that we need to take, because all these forces are distributed at their points of applications. So there is a planar sort of distribution. It is a plane kinetics we are studying, we have to remember. So actually all these forces are actually they are distributed in a planar manner. That means all these forces are not acting at a same point. In other words, all these forces are not concurrent. That means their lines of actions will always meet at a particular point. It is not the case. So all these forces are acting at the different locations. So therefore, it will be required that we need to take care of the moment of all these forces with respect to some point. For example, in this case, let us choose that point B as our point A. So it may be required, therefore, to take care of this planar distribution of the forces, and we can say we can choose the point A as our moment center, and we can write that the moment of all these external forces about that point A, that must be equal to, of course, you see here you have taken the moment of all these forces with respect to point A, and we know by Varignon's theorem that should be equal to the moment of their resultant about this point. So since this point A is here and these are your resultant force components for all this system of forces here, so we need to take their moment about this point A. So we can say that the sigma MA it should be equal to, if we consider that sigma ma, if we consider that the clockwise moment is positive, because all these moments here in this case is clockwise, maybe that there may be some anti-clockwise moments, all moments may be anti-clockwise, we can take that anti-clockwise moment as positive, or it may be the case that we have some of the moments will be clockwise and some of the moments will be anti-clockwise. In that case, we need to decide which direction we are going to take as the positive one. Normally, conventionally, what is done is that the anti-clockwise moment is taken as to be positive. So whatever be your nature, according to that you need to decide which direction you will be arbitrarily calling it to be positive. Then of course the opposite direction will be therefore negative. And we can write that summation ma, that means the moment of all the external forces about that point A, that must be equal to m times x bar into a bar y plus y bar into a bar x. Now, it may be that sometimes it is required that we need to take the moment of all these forces with respect to the center of mass itself. So if we choose instead of point A as our moment center in this equation, if someone chooses the center of mass as to be the center of moment, that means we take the point C, which represents the center of mass of this rigid body, then if we decide that we will be going to take the moment of all these external forces about the center of mass, then of course we can see that summation mc, that will be equal to 0. It is because that your resultant line of action of the forces, I mean to say the individual external forces which are acting on the rigid body as shown in the free body diagram, their resultant will naturally pass through the center of mass, and as a result we can say that if we take the moment with respect to the center of mass, we will find that this moment sum should be equal to 0. So therefore, you see, for a plane motion, since we are considering the plane motion, it is needless to mention, but we again reiterate and remind you that we are discussing the plane motion. So these three equations, I mean to say equation 1, 2 and 3 or 3 dash, you need to select between this which one will be your appropriate equation. So these three equations are required, to solve the problem. And since we have three equations, independent equations at our disposal, therefore you see that we can solve for maximum 3 number of unknowns in this problem. So we note from here, this is what is called as the debit credit analysis of the unknown versus available equation, and we see that these are our available equations, and we can, using these available equations, we can go and solve for maximum 3 number of unknowns. So let us consider an example of this problem of plane motion, I mean to say plane translational motion, to illustrate our process further. But before we proceed to discuss an example, again I will remind you that our problem will be, we may take care of the rectilinear translational motion, and it can be the curvilinear translational motion also. So let us take an example from the problem from the book, and we consider this problem here. So this is the problem taken from the book of Merriam, 7th edition, available in the internet. Problem number 6 by 29, which is the problem from the rectilinear, rectilinear and curvilinear translational kinetics of a rigid body. So this is the figure for the problem. Let me first see what this figure actually represents. Let us first discuss the rather explain the figure of the for the problem. So in this case, what we are basically having, we are having a crate. This is a crate, something, a heavy box. Now that is moved by means of two equal but parallel linkages. So this thereby constitutes what is known as the parallelogram linkage. And in case of the parallelogram linkage, we know that the motion of the connecting rod, correct? The motion of the connecting rod. The parallelogram linkage basically refers to, as I said, there will be two cranks like this, and the two cranks will be equal and they must be parallel to each other. And we say that these are their centers of rotations. And this is the connecting rod. This is the connecting rod which connects these two cranks. So the cranks are of equal length. This is L. Then this must also be L. Now, if we rotate the cranks, say this direction and this direction, obviously what you will find that this connecting rod will basically move along a straight line. So if I call this as O, this is A, let us say this is O1A, this is O2, and this is B. Say if they are displaced by an angle of theta, then the connecting rod will occupy this position. Let's say this is A prime and this is B prime. And we see that this A will move along a curved path, along a circular arc, for which the center is O1 and the radius is L. And the same angle will be displaced here. So again, this point B will move along a parallel and congruent circular arc to come from the point B to the location B dash. So essentially, we see that this connecting rod AB is actually, undergoing a translational motion. Why it is undergoing a translational motion? It is because that there is no change in the orientation of the body. So if there is no change in the orientation of the body, then we can plainly say that the body is undergoing a motion which must be translational in nature, because if there is any rotational component, then there will be a change in the orientation of the body. So in this case, the line connecting rod AB will move to the location A dash B dash, where A dash B dash will be parallel to AB, and there is no change in the orientation of this connecting rod. So it is undergoing the curvilinear translational motion, because here the individual trajectory of the particle A to the position A prime, individual trajectory will be a circular arc. So it means that the individual particle A is moving along a curved path. Similarly, the point B will be moving along the identical, but what is called a parallel. So it is undergoing a parallel and congruent arc over there. So any other point on this connecting rod C will exactly follow, the same circular arc over here. So therefore, we see that it is undergoing what is called as the curvilinear translational motion. We can use this particular straight line mechanism in our day-to-day life in many cases. For example, the motion of the wiper which wipes a wet glass window pane, the motion of the wiper can be, due to this straight line mechanism, or which is known as the parallelogram linkage. So here this parallelogram linkage example is shown. The basic objective of this parallelogram linkage is that there are two cranks which are equal of length 1200 millimeter. They are rotating about the fixed points C and E, undergoing rotation about these 2 points, which are 600 millimeter apart from each other. And the other ends of these cranks are basically connected with a platform. Therefore, as these cranks rotate, the platform will undergo a translational motion, and thereby it can shift from one location to another location, and this can be applied to, say, transfer this payload. This is a payload, heavy load, which is being taken care of by this platform. So this heavy load can be lifted from this platform A to the platform B. That means it can be therefore transfer this load from one point to another point, and this entire action is actually being governed by this parallelogram linkage. In this case, how this rotational motion is imparted onto this crank, this is one of the cranks it is imparted. Obviously the motion will get transmitted to the other one also. That means you need to actually set a prime mover to any one of these two equal cranks. So you can either fix the electric motor or something like that to the point 1, to the shaft of at point 1, or it can be at point 2 as well. So in this case, in the present case, actually the motion is actually being governed by this hydraulic cylinder. This hydraulic cylinder is fixed at the underside of this fixed platform, and there is this rod which is extensible or contractible. So this rod can extend and thereby push this link, and the entire link can rotate in the clockwise direction, or it can retract, thereby it can move in the anti-clockwise. In the anti-clockwise, the other motion will be anti-clockwise, and it can retract to execute a clockwise motion to the entire system. So this is how this entire mechanism will work. This is the explanation of this figure, because you need to understand the physics of the problem, that is what we are actually going to solve, and that system we need to understand and physically, mentally visualize. Then only we will be able to actually apply our equations of motion to solve our problem. So in this case, the question goes like this: the parallelogram linkage is used to transfer the crates from platform A to platform B, okay, and is hydraulically operated. So this is a hydraulically operated ram. The oil pressure inside the cylinder, this is the cylinder where we are having, this is the cylinder. Here actually the high pressure oil is fed into the system, and that high pressure oil is actually, there is a plunger pump, etc. All these things are not shown here. There will be a positive displacement pump which will pressurize and create that high pressure oil to apply the force onto the cylinder, which will actually elongate this path, or it imparts this motion to this crank, one of the cranks here. So the oil pressure inside the cylinder is programmed to provide a smooth transition of motion from theta equal to 0. So theta is the angle made by this driving crank with the vertical line through the point E. So this is the angle theta, and obviously when it is here theta equal to 0, it means the entire assembly is vertical and the crate is supposed to be at the platform A. So we see that it is moving from theta equal to 0 to theta 0 equal to pi by 3. So there is an entire motion from theta equal to 0 to theta equal to pi by 3, means 60 degree rotation is required in order to transfer this crate from this one to this one. And radian theta 0 equal to pi by 3 radian is given by the equation theta is equal to pi by 6 whole into 1 minus cos pi t by 2, where t is in seconds. So it means that in between how this theta equal to 0 to theta equal to pi by 3, this angular transference will take place. So the angle theta at any point of time that will this crank will make with respect to the vertical is being given by this equation theta equal to pi by 6 whole into 1 minus cos pi t by 2, where in this equation t needs to be used in seconds and theta must be in radian. Determine the force at D on the pin. So here as you see, these are the fixed links, and this is where your crank is actually is being hinged at this point D and at this point F. So there are two hinge points here, where they are actually, acting at these 2 points. So we need to find out the force that is developed at the pin D in 2 occasions. In the first case, just after the start of the motion with theta and t essentially 0. So when it is about to start, then theta and t must be equal to 0 here, and that is the first case. In that case, we need to find out what should be the force that is developed at point D. You remember theta equal to 0 means everything was vertical. I mean to say the cranks are vertical. So at that situation, will it be equal to the weight of the crate or not? That we need to check. What will be the force being carried by the pin D here? That is the first case. And the second case is we need to calculate this force when t becomes equal to 1 seconds. So when t becomes equal to 1 seconds, we need to actually calculate how much will be the force that will be required over here. So the crate and the platform have a combined mass. So this is the crate and this is the platform. So this together constitutes a mass of 200 kg with the center of mass at point G, and the mass of these individual links are small compared to this 200 kg and thus can be neglected for the present analysis. So we see that the masses of these links are very, very small, and we can treat them, so far as our modeling is concerned, we can treat them as the massless links, and compared to the weight of this platform, which is equal to weight of the crate and the platform, which is equal to 200 kg. So we need to calculate the force at this pin under these 2 conditions. Now, first of all, you see here, since as I told you, already explained you that how this parallelogram linkage or straight line linkage mechanism works. So we find that the point D and the point F, they are actually moving along the congruent parallel paths as shown here by this dotted line, as shown here by this dotted line. So the arc, let us suppose if this point is D dash, this point is F dash, then we can see from here that the arc DD dash and the arc F dash, they are equal and they must be parallel to each other. First of all, for any time, we can determine the acceleration components because we are actually fitting the whole thing to this crank. Actually, we can find out the acceleration for the components for the point F. But since as we have identified that this system is undergoing a curvilinear translational motion, so those acceleration components must also be equal to the corresponding acceleration components for any other point on this system for that matter, and can be treated as the acceleration components of the center of mass G here as well. So therefore, we see how we can find out these acceleration components. We note that the point F will be moving along a circular path for which the center of rotation will be our point T, and this 1200 millimeter will be the radius of our rotation. So first we see that this equation theta as a function of time is specified here. So we can differentiate this equation with respect to time twice to find out the angular velocity and the angular acceleration. So you can see from here that the value of theta dot, the expression for theta dot, turns out to be as pi squared 12 into sine pi t by 2 so much radian per second, and this is theta double dot, which will be equal to pi cube by 24 into cos pi t by 2 radian per second square. You must always specify the units for them. So this will be our theta dot and this will be our theta double dot. Now for this point F, therefore, the normal component of acceleration. So what is the normal component of acceleration? It is obvious that the normal component of acceleration of the point F will be, along this. This will be the normal component, and this is going to be the tangential component. So we can say that this is our AFN. We can say this is AFN, that is the normal component. And we can say that this is going to be AFT, that is our tangential component. So AN must be equal to 1.2 theta dot square. So we can see that this is also equal to AGN. That means the center of mass is also having the same acceleration components. That means this must be equal to your AGN, correct? And this must be equal to your AGT. So this is AGN and this is AGT. We can very easily see from here. So we have therefore AGN and AGT we can calculate. Now at this point, let us draw the free body diagram of the crate, of the free body diagram of this crate and this platform. So if we check this free body diagram of the crate and the platform, we see that we will be having at point F, these will be the two reaction components RFX and RFY, because if we see this free body diagram of the crank FE, the crank FE, if we draw the free body diagram of the crank FE, what I will find here that at point, this is the point where it is being attached with this hydraulic cylinder, and this hydraulic cylinder is actually applying a force which is going to be perpendicular to this link. So quite naturally, to resist this force, there will be some reaction forces that will be developed. So your reaction forces here and the reaction force at the hinge point must be, it can be therefore written in this manner. So this will be your reaction forces so far as the link EF is concerned. On the other hand, if you see, this is the crank EF, and if we draw the corresponding free body diagram of the crank DE, what you will find, the corresponding crank free body diagram for the crank D, this will be DC, sorry, this will be DC. Here you see that there are no other forces because we have already neglected the self weight of these two links. Therefore, you find that there are no other forces acting onto your system. So quite naturally, your reaction force, it must be a two-force member. That means your resultant reaction forces will be actually acting in this way. So either it will be trying to push or it will be trying to pull the system. So it will be therefore this member CD. This member CD, because we are neglecting the self weight of this member, there is no other third force which is acting into the system. So therefore you see this member CD, this must be it is a what is termed as in mechanics, we call it to be a two-force member. While the other crank, that means the crank EF, that means the crank EF, if we call this is the crank EF, this is not a two-force member. It is because that you have in between you are having this force. If this force would not have been there, then this would have also been equal to a two-force member like the other crank. So we see therefore the corresponding reaction forces at point F will be RFX and RFY, and since this CD link is a two-force member, we can say that this will be the reaction force offered by the link CD on the platform at point D. So this will be therefore the reaction force RF, and let us suppose that the angle made by this reaction force with the vertical is being given by equal to theta, and this theta must be actually the angle made by these links with the vertical. So at any point of time, you see this is your angle theta, where theta as a function of time, is being given by this particular equation. And you see this will be therefore the reaction force explanation. And you know that there is a self weight of the system which must pass through the center of mass or the of the entire system, which is here shown to be point G. And we can see that this is where this weight W, that is equal to 200 G, this force is acting in this manner. And we know that this should be equivalent to the corresponding acceleration components. So as we see that we had, this is the normal component of acceleration. We have already calculated this AGN and this AGT here. So use them to calculate this force, which must be equal to 200 AGN, and this must be equal to 200 AGT. These two acceleration components can further be written along the x direction, because this horizontal direction we have taken it to be the x-axis, and this vertical direction we have taken it to be equal to y-axis. So we can resolve these two acceleration components along the x and y direction. So this must be equal to your a bar x, that is the x component of acceleration of the center of mass, or will be acceleration of the center of mass for any point belonging to the system. Similarly, this will be the corresponding acceleration of the center of mass along the y-axis. So you see this will be your a bar x and this will be your a bar y, and we get therefore that these dotted lines, right, these vectors, they represent the corresponding 200 times a bar x, where a bar x is definitely equal to AGN sine theta minus AGT cos theta, and this should be equal to 200 a bar y, where a bar y is equal to AGN cos theta plus AGT sine theta. So we see that this is your free body diagram, and this is what is termed as the equivalent kinetic diagram. So once this is done, now we are ready for our analysis. So what we do, since our objective is to find out this reaction force, so this is my unwanted unknown. These two forces are my unwanted unknowns. Since I do not want them to come and bother my life, so what I decide therefore, I take the moment of all these forces with respect to the point F. So the point A that we are referring to in our original theory portion actually is taken care of by this, that role is actually taken care by the point F. So we decide to take the moment of all the forces with respect to point F, and we decide that the anti-clockwise moment we are going to take as to be positive 1. Someone can take the clockwise moment also as to be the negative 1. Then you need to remember that the anti-clockwise moment is to be treated negative, while in this case the clockwise moment will be treated to be negative. So if we go to take the moment of all these forces with respect to point F, then that should be equal to the moment of this m a bar x and this m a bar y. That means the m a bar x is acting this way and m a bar y is acting this way. So these two moments, we need these two forces. That means this m a bar x, I can say this is m times a bar x, and this is also equal to m times a bar y. We need to take their moments about the point F, where the point F is somewhere here. The distances of the center of mass G from this point F are shown here to be equal to 600 millimeter and 480 millimeter respectively. So what we are going to do is, we are going to take the moment of these two, taking the anti-clockwise moment as positive. We can write our equation something like this. That is very pretty simple to note. That means now if you substitute here summation mf, that means if we take the moment of all these forces with respect to this point F, then we see from here it will be 200 G minus RF cos theta into this distance, that means 0.6, that must be equal to 120 into this whole thing. So this is actually the equation which is going to be valid for any angle. Now since we have been asked to find out these forces RF for the two occasions for which we know specifically the corresponding values of the theta, so we go and plug into the above equation those specific values of theta. So our first case will basically correspond to theta equal to 0. So in the above equation, we put theta equal to 0 here. And you see many terms will not survive. And you see from here in this equation, if we put theta equal to 0 in the above equation, definitely from here, we will be getting the value of RF, that is coming out to be as 1713.95 Newton, and it should be vertical. Why it is vertical? Because in the case theta is equal to 0, actually RF must be along this link length, along this link, RF must be along this link CD, which is going to make an angle theta with respect to vertical. Since at theta equal to 0 position, this link will be altogether vertical. Therefore, you see here that at theta equal to 0, our resultant reaction will be vertical in nature, and this will be the case. So it is 1713.95 Newton, which is going to be little less than your 200 G. The 200 G is the total force. This 200 G, it is going to be little less than that. Now, if we come to discuss for the second case for which T is equal to 1 second, so you know from our equation, when we put T equal to 1 second, the corresponding value of theta turns out to be as pi by 6 radian. So that is pretty simple, because you remember theta is equal to pi by 6 whole into 1 minus cos pi t by 2. So when you are going to put T equal to 1 second into this cos part will vanish, and theta becomes equal to pi by 6 radian when T becomes equal to 1 second. So if you put T equal to 1 second, that means if we put theta equal to pi by 6, it is as good as telling that theta is equal to pi by 6 in the above general equation. So if you substitute this, and you know that we find out the corresponding normal components and tangential components of acceleration of the center of mass for T equal to 1 second in these equations, so to say, in these equations, if you put T equal to 1 second, definitely you find that there is some AGN. However, at T equal to 1 second, there is no AT. That means at T equal to 1 second, AT will be 0 and there will be some amount of AN. So we find here that at T equal to 0, AGN turns out to be 1.2 into pi to the power 4 by 12 square meter per second square, and AGT, that means the tangential component of the acceleration of the center of mass, turns out to be 0. So if we recall these two units and go and substitute it into our general equation, we find that it will be 200 G minus 0.866 RF will be given by this particular thing. So if we solve, we find that the value of the reaction force at point F turns out to be as 278.23 Newton, and of course this reaction force now will be actually at an angle of 60 degree with respect to the vertical. So that means with respect to this vertical line, this reaction force will be now acting at an angle of 60 degree, because at T equal to 1 second, the angle made by the links with respect to the vertical is going to be equal to 60 degree. So students, I hope that with the solution of this problem, you have understood the basic logic behind these problems of the rectilinear kinetics in case of the translational motion of a rigid body. What you need to do? First, you need to solve the kinematics portion, because as I have told you in the very beginning, that for studying the kinetics, the kinematics analysis is the foremost thing that we need to have. You need to have your all kinematical analysis in your hand before you attempt to solve any corresponding kinetics problems. So first you require to solve the kinematics as we have done here. We have found the kinematics for the point F, and since it is the case of the translational motion, I can directly and blindly copy those acceleration components for point F and transfer them to point G, because the entire system is executing a curvilinear translational motion. The thing would have been identical if this situation would have been a problem of a rectilinear translational kinetics. So I hope that with the example that I have elaborated to you and explained to you will help you to understand the basic concept of these types of problems, and I will invite you to open the book and solve this problem of Merriam and Craig from the book of Merriam and Craig. You know, the problems, corresponding problems of the translational kinetics part, plain translational kinetics part. Dear students, when we will be meeting in our next class, we will be taking care of or talking about what is called the another type of motion of the rigid body, which is actually known as the fixed axis rotation about a fixed point. Till then, it's bye from my end. Thank you for watching the video.